So the way that I like to interview and sit with people is first we start with a breath. Really kind of just allows us to settle in with an opportunity for you to share with us a moment in your life, a moment in your life where you were given a gift that was transformative. And perhaps in that moment, you didn't know that it was going to be transformative.
I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I
Great.
didn't know how to talk about it because it had some confidentiality issues, but that question just solved it for me.
Great. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Uh, so when I turned 50, I was feeling very restless. And I often feel restless, but this was a restless loneliness. And I went out to a meditation retreat in California. I was living in Connecticut at the time. And at this retreat, I went in and I was prepared to meditate and be in quiet for, 5 to 7 days. And I heard this voice say that you can move here. And I was like, what? No, 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 no. And it was so persistent throughout the whole retreat. I don't think I got any chanting in. It was just very, very persistent. So I went back home and I was like, okay, that was cool. Maybe I can move there, maybe not. I had just gotten divorced, so I had a little flexibility. And I went to pack up my Christmas things because that had been in the fall. This was Christmas. And I was putting them in my attic. And I guess another voice said, you're not going to need these. You can. So I didn't know what was going on. So I went and dropped them off at Goodwill. And then I started actively working through work with some connections I had in a volunteer organization. And they created a position for me doing some video editing. And it was a spiritually founded organization, an ecumenical church. And it was a big risk for me because it was a nonprofit and the pay was pretty low. I didn't really understand how low it was because I was coming from Connecticut. But I gave away all my belongings. I thought I was making a holy sacrifice and I was going to go live the rest of my life working for this organization. And I get there and I'm doing my Dharma and everything. And one of my Dharma activities was to wash the tables outside. It was really quite a nice garden area in LA, and I love doing it. And I'm washing these tables, and I heard this voice say, you have been disconnected from the karma of this organization. And that scared me because I was living there, I was working there, and my plan was to be in this place for the rest of my life. It was um, not a convent. What else do they call it? I forget, something you can live and work there. So I was a little scared about that. And over the next 2 years, as I got to know the underbelly of the organization, things weren't sitting well with me. And there were some activities that needed addressing on a higher level. And it ended up almost separating from the organization completely. And so I guess you're wondering what's the story in this, because you have these messages and you act on them, and then what the hell happened? And I will have to say that was one of the scariest things I've ever been through, because I felt like I was divorcing my brother. And I'm like, Spirit, why did you have me move out here if you're just going to unplug me from everything? So it was a rough few years, and the community I had out here that was well established, I'm not as connected with, but my life still transformed. I am so much happier here than I ever was in Connecticut. I have so many more friends than I ever had. I never expected to live in Santa Barbara. That was a fluke because I was separating from that job. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not licensed as a therapist in California. I panicked. So I just Google, let's see, I'm spiritual and I want to be a counselor. And there was a job in hospice.
Oh,
My boyfriend had just died unexpectedly, so that was really good material for the interview, and I got the job and moved up here. So I think It's not an easy story to tell because obviously there's many icebergs below that tip.
Yeah.
But I think the overall message is that we get to follow our intuition. We get to be stirred. We get to be messy. We get to wake up and put it back together the best way we can. So what I went through, I wouldn't wish on anybody, but I'd never take it away from myself.
Thank you so much for sharing. It moved me and was very profound. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a breath.